and then, start. Oh, okay, perfect. Oh my God, what is this? What am I doing? Recording. Okay, go live. And I think we are live. Good evening, everyone. Or good afternoon, I guess, in California, wherever you're watching us or will be watching us. I am really excited for many reasons to be here with Lance Kearse. I will introduce him in a little bit. Let me first also introduce why we're here, with the new episodes that I've decided to launch with him that will happen on a monthly basis. I call them New Health. And the reason I'm talking about new health is because I think the definition of health in our society is really not working anymore. There are many problems with it, and the way that we view health as a society, it needs to change in many ways. So in these episodes, the idea is to bring real stories, real people, real healing experiences, and health that's really, overall health and vitality and, well-being, all of those things that used to be the definition of health, but somehow we've lost it and it's become more associated maybe with disease than anything else. So that's why we're here today, to launch the new health episodes that you can watch on YouTube, Facebook, or on Zoom. And I'm so excited to be here with Lance. Lance, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting to be here with us tonight. I know you're a really busy man, spreading lots of really good knowledge, information, product, and smiles around the world with your incredible story and with your really, really cool products that you have decided to bring to the market to help others. But I think you will do a much better job introducing yourself. I just want to say, Lance is an ex-pro athlete, and he struggled with a really serious disease that the modern and our advanced healthcare and health system couldn't really figure out, and wasn't giving him the attention needed. So finally, almost losing his life, he was able to recover his health, and not only recovers his health, but really follow his dreams, and by that also bringing new hope for people who might be struggling with other kinds of health issues. So welcome, Lance. Thanks for being here. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. That was a great introduction.
Thank you.
So you hit it on the nail. You hit it on the head. I'm Lance Kearse. Played professional sports. I played basketball overseas in Spain. I got to travel the world a lot, so I got to see a couple different ways that other people lived, and I was able to include some of that into my life. Right, like I didn't know what a dragon fruit was until I lived in Spain. Right, so when someone says dragon fruit, I think pitaya, right? Because that's the first time I heard the name. It was pitaya, but when I come here, it's dragon fruit. I'm like, much of the health stuff I never understood, but that just lets you know how traveled I am and where I've been and how I've gathered things from other coaches and put it inside of what I do. But yeah, you're right. I suffer from sickle cell trait. That's a blood disorder. Typically, it's an equatorial or a tropical region disorder that people deal with. And when you're outside of that region, it normally affects you. So, but I'm here today. I feel good. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm here talking with you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. I have my share of like healing experiences, health problems that I was able to heal on my own. I'm not gonna share those today. Maybe
Why not?
well, maybe we'll go into one of them, but not all
Okay.
of them. But I think
Okay.
what really is amazing about this is that we're here today, alive, smiling, and happy to ready to be sharing our vulnerable stories to help other people, and to also just try to make a shift in the things that are not going well in this field, I think, in health and well-being. So why don't you tell us a little more, though? I really want to understand. So what you said is really interesting. how is it that the disease that you're describing is more, it happens in certain regions or it happens outside of these regions?
Mhm.
This is really interesting. I think you also share this a lot on your social media channels, right?
Yes.
How your culture and regions really affect your health and well-being. How does that work?
Mhm. Uh, yeah. So sickle cell and sickle cell trait is congenital, meaning you can't. It's not contagious. You can't catch it. You have to be born with it, and it's an adaptation for malaria or nature selection for malaria. So whenever you have it, and your body typically likes that same region where malaria thrives at, in the warm, humid region, right? Whenever you leave a warm, humid region, your body is now saying, "Hey, I selected you to live in this region, so I gave you certain traits." And when you live outside of that region, your body's like, come on now, you know, work with me here. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they're outside of that region, when they're too cold, especially in the cold. And the reason why I bring up the cold is because it's hard for cells, for veins and arteries to dilate when you're in the cold, right?
Right.
And vasodilation is what my body and people with sickle cell trait need all the time. We need to be able to have free flowing blood so that there's no blood clots, and so that blood can get to where it's supposed to go. And yeah, when you live outside of that region, a lot of people within that region have, wider set nostrils and hair that stands up away from the neck, and darker skin for a reason, because natural selection said, I give you these features so that you can survive this climate. It's not
Right.
there's no good or bad features. It's what are those features for, right? When I'm looking at a human being, I'm looking at, wow, what did nature want them to survive based on their nose, based on their hair, based on their skin? It's nature saying, I give you certain features so you can thrive, not survive, to thrive. You can survive anywhere. You can do whatever in Antarctica, in the tip of Machu Picchu, not Machu Picchu, and tip of Mount Everest or whatnot. You can go a bunch of different places, but your body is like a manual that that nature has already selected for you to live and live a certain way and thrive in a certain way.
I
So it's
really
just
love
us.
that. I love that phrase. I might write it down somewhere. It's really cool because you're right. I mean, I actually my whole method that I created is really about reconnecting to the language of the body, because
Mhm.
I think we have all the wisdom inside our body, and with the senses and our intuition and with everything that we receive from the outside, all the everything that happens around us is registered by our body, and we know best, how to keep ourselves healthy and well, right? But most of
Okay.
the time, we don't know how to listen to those signals because we are completely disconnected from the body, and B, we're told not to. We're completely disempowered and told that doctors or the medical system knows better, so we have to ignore their symptoms. But just to go back also to what you said, I recently discovered, no, not recently, but like with the whole, for example, my daughter ended up having this whole like 2 years of issues with congestion, and then one day someone suggested, oh, why don't you take out dairy products? So we take out dairy products, and you know lo and behold, like a month later, all of her congestive problems go away, and we were already suspecting like some kind of like diseases with genetic disorders and all that stuff. So then I go read, and it's really easy. It's exactly what you're saying. Basically, when we came out of Africa, the more north we went, some of us got this like mutation to be able to absorb or to eat dairy to get the calcium that we needed, that we're not, or vitamin D, sorry, from the milk, because we couldn't get it from the sun, right? So some
Mhm.
of us have that mutation, but
Yeah.
she didn't. So she can't, that's why a lot of us are like, we have all these like allergies and inflammation and you name it. And a lot of it is caused by dairy and many of the other, horrible things that are uh, all around us, and we have to be aware. Speaking of, so what is it that you think is really like, what do people, what's your advice, someone who went through something like this, what should people be aware of in terms of both external and internal cues for not getting sick, but also being well and, having more vitality, more energy.
Yeah. Are you speaking more for the sickle cell trait or
I think in general, actually, like what,
yeah.
I mean, I know that's a big question, but maybe like some things
No,
that,
that's okay.
like that really made a difference for you. Like, you should pay
Yeah.
attention to, like you said, like nature, where you live, and what kind of fruits you eat, or like seasonal
Yeah.
fruits. I don't know, what's kind of a big thing for you?
Well, before you get to the nature and the different regions and all that stuff, we would first have to scale back from like stage one. Stage one is getting fresh, good food, right? Not organic, not processed, right? Before we even talk about this, because I feel like that's even not saying that we're speaking on a high level, but that's just a level that most people aren't even concerned with. Most people are on a survival level. So how do we now affect people on a surviving level more so? Like, what do we remove? Sodas? Well, why should we remove sodas? Well, sodas are a natural way of living, right? Because you have to eat as close to nature as possible. Should we remove a bunch of processed foods like little cakes and cookies and Skittles? And yeah, because nature didn't choose for that. Nature gave you fruit for that, right? We can't
There were no
replace nature.
Skittles hanging around on trees before. Thank goodness.
Not at all, right? We try to replace these synthetic things with natural things to a point where when someone tells you, hey, here goes a natural source of how to get what you need, like, really? Where's the scientific backup for that? What's the scientific evidence? It's like, it grows on a tree. You can go outside and pick it. To the point where most people they'll bypass a mango on a tree down the street and go straight to Publix and get it, as if as if Publix has certified fruit. Like, it's like, they're the gatekeepers, like you said, like doctors earlier, right, for health.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Whenever you create a monopoly, right, you got to be very aware, right? A monopoly of knowledge, got to be very aware of that person. They're trying to mislead you, right? They call it like being a grifter. Do you know what the term grifter is?
No.
So the term grifter is someone who poses as if they have all the knowledge, and they only have access to it, and you have to go through them to get it. That's essentially what a monopoly does, right? We have all the knowledge. You got to go through us to get it. That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Like, you're pulling a fast one on me. Don't do that to me now. All right, you're not the only one with access to that knowledge. Every single human being on earth has access to all knowledge, right? We just have to teach them the basic principles.
Exactly.
Once I teach you the basic principles, you can piece everything together. You can connect the dots. But taking us away from the base knowledge is what leads us down the path of despair and sickness. So you take away base knowledge, and now right, and you complex it. You say, well, no, well, this and this, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to. Then people don't know what to think. There's too much information overload, and they're not stuck with a base knowledge, like a branch, like a core knowledge. So before we even talk about it, I don't even think we should even talk about that stuff on this meeting. We should more address walking,
you
sleeping,
lead the meeting.
stress management.
I'm letting you, tell your story and what was like most important, what you learned. So I agree with you. It's all going back to the basics, really, right? It's really simple. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it's like we have to uncomplicate and simplify life, because health is simple, but we think, no, you got to go to a doctor if you get take a pill if you get sick. That if you told people this, I don't know, 500 years ago, they would think you're crazy, right? Or even 100 years ago, they would think you're crazy. I do understand that there's other sicknesses, and I know that they have antibiotics, for sicknesses and all that. I get that, but there's a level of needing something, and like, you're not supposed to take medicine all the time, right? You take medicine when you're sick, typically, right? Well, we're having people essentially live in a perpetual state of sickness.
Yep.
And so they think that,
one
yeah,
medication causes all the symptoms, and then you take medication for the symptoms to keep it under control, and it's just like it's crazy, man.
yeah. So
It's
we have to bring them back to the point where we're like, okay, listen, this is how it feels to feel good. There's no coughing, there's no sneezing, there's clear nose breathing, clear passage. You can walk, there's no pain. This is what feels like. But a lot of people don't know what feeling good feels like. They think feeling bad is a natural state. It is not, right? You're not supposed to have any impediments in your life. So,
it's funny. I created a whole concept around this called pleasurable wellness, which is really about that. Like, when do you really know that you're feeling well and your body is at its best, and at this greatest vitality and health? But it's so foreign to a lot of people. I can't even market that these days.
no,
what,
no,
what the hell is pleasurable wellness? They associate
no.
pleasure with something like sexual or something very like, but I'm like, pleasure is a normal state of being, really. Like, if you are feeling well, and if you are, if you don't have anything, like, you should be enjoying yourself and feeling joy and pleasure at all times. But it's so
Well,
foreign to us that we are like, so I have to go. That's why I called the episodes New Health, like, to go back a little bit to the language that people still use, because like it's almost like pleasure and well-being are way out there, and we can't even get there yet, right?
it's
So
taboo to even say pleasure outside of sex and smoking and drinking, right? It's like if you're not smoking, drinking, and having sex, it's taboo. You
oh
can't say pleasure. You can't use that pleasure word, right? You
no.
can't say exercise is pleasure and good sleep is pleasure and sunbathing is pleasure. No, that you can only associate those words with intimacy, sexually. It's like,
Don't get me
you
started.
know, it's like we've been boxed into what we consider pleasure, right? It's like, taking care of yourself and doing what your body's supposed to need and do. That's you trying to. It's almost if they try to push it off as as it is an affluent thing to have.
Yeah.
Like, exercise is affluent. That's not affluent. Like, you don't have to be rich to exercise. Like, you don't have to be rich to eat healthy. I probably save my most money as like in my current diet, right?
Right.
Because I figured out like a method and how to cook it and how to eat it and prepare it and warm it up at certain times, right? So yeah, that's
I actually, that's one thing that I want to ask you, make sure to ask you about your vegan diet, but
yeah.
because most people think, and I worked with holistic nutrition for a while, and it's like, and I still incorporate it into my practice, but when you tell people to eat healthy, they automatically think that it's going to be like boring and diet, right, or something. And it's the opposite of truth. Like, when you take out all the, like, just like plain pasta and pizza and meat, like, there's so much more that you can put on your plate that looks like colorful and beautiful and smells good and actually like tastes like something, right? So um yeah, so real food and real eating, like, it's for me also, it's like the foundation. So how did that why did you switch actually to, was that part of the healing process for you, or was it something like, what do you eat these days? Could you share a little bit of that? Just like
you
inspire
know
people to get out of there eating like cardboard food.
Cardboard, right?
I mean, honestly, like, it all looks like, when you go into those, like, the aisles in the supermarket, right? It's all boxes and bottles, right? And then when I recently moved from Brazil to back to the U.S., and then, like, in Brazil, I would buy a lot of my foods at the market, at the street markets, right? Here um, it's a little more difficult. So I end up with all these, like, bottles and boxes and bottles and boxes, and I'm like, A, this is terrible for the environment, and B, like, what
Terrible for your body.
terrible for your body. And we don't think about it. We think more about the environment than we think about our body, right?
Yeah.
So,
Save the environment, but who gives a fuck? Who gives a hell about your body, right?
well, our
No,
body
what?
is environment, right? Like, we are nature. We don't, I think we, like, think of ourselves as somehow different from nature, but it's like, our body is nature. It's all the same. So if you're not taking
Yeah.
care of your body, you're not taking care of nature. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. So just to clear up my diet, you know, just to clear up the perspective of my diet, so you understand the duality within it or the nuances within it. I am a vegan, but I eat a whole food plant-based diet, meaning I go for real fruit foods, like real fruit, real veggies, legumes, nuts, seeds, grains, right? I'm going for the real thing. I'm not going for the, I don't know, juice when I can just eat the fruit of the juice.
Right.
Right? I'm not going to skip the fiber and just say I want an all juice diet. Some people may have to juice, celiac or whatever. You never know what people are dealing with. But before we talk about the celiac, what caused the celiac in the first place?
Yep.
Right? Like, was it a vaccine? Was it some medications? Was it, like, what is this? And why were you on those medications, or why did, and I'm not talking about vaccine as in COVID. I'm going to stay far away from that. Like, I don't have anything to do with that. I've been shadow banned for 15 months. I learned my lesson, lost a lot of money, but uh, yeah,
You're clear on that topic just in the first meeting.
yeah. Listen to me. What's going to come out, and what's going to come out about that, it's going to come out about that, and I got nothing to do with it. I've already said my piece. People who know me know who I am, know how I stand about that, what I feel about it. And the same stance I have today is the same stance I had 15 years ago. Not during 2020, 15, 16 years ago. I've been saying the same thing. I've never stopped. Like, this isn't something new. I didn't just jump on a bandwagon. I've been saying the same thing over and over. The slogan for my company is be your own doctor. That's my slogan, right? But back to the diet. Yeah, you don't have to eat cardboard, plain diet. Like, no, it can be fun. Like, whenever someone tells me, I have to eat healthy, it's going to be boring. Well, that lets me know the limitations of their creativity and their knowledge or health. All right, it's not about what you say; it's about what you don't say. So whenever you say something like that, I'm like, oh, I know where I get it. I understand.
Well,
And then
because from a psychological point of view, if you say like anything, like your brain doesn't understand the no particle, right? So if you try to put like limitations, you're never going to be able to get there. So it's about like, what can I include into my diet that's going to make me feel better?
Absolutely. And when you now introduce them to a new diet and other foods and other types of foods, they're like, what? That exists? I never knew that. What? Impossible. How does that? You can limit your oil. You don't have to just put oil all throughout everything. Yeah, you really don't need it. You need it to probably for some texture, or you don't drink juice. Smoothie, right? I still need the fiber, right? Like, probably sometimes if I'm thirsty and that's the only thing I have to drink, or I'm somewhere at an event and that's what I'm drinking. But no, I prefer consuming it the way God made it in the first place. Why would I now take it and degrade it and think that I'm getting better? If I degrade the food, I degrade me, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, it's when you actually take advantage of what nature created, there's just like so much more to it than we actually like. Even with the fruit, it's not just the fruit, right? You have the seeds that provide you, like, not all seeds, but a lot of the
Yeah.
seeds will provide you with all the fat and the protein and all the fiber, like you said. And it's like, and if we don't also, like, all the fruit in the supermarkets are like completely, like, what are they, polished, or I don't even know what they do with them. They're like all like sparkling, right? But in reality, if we have, that's another issue, and I feel like in the US it's even more exaggerated in other countries. It's like this sterility, right? It's like completely getting rid of bacteria to the point where, and in reality, the some of that, like the dirt from from the trees and from, it's really essential for us. That's why
Yeah.
I'm having this like gut issues and a celiac and all of that stuff. It's like we're killing all of all of the this possible bacteria, and with it we're killing life, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
But just to speak to that, we always talk about, America versus other countries and whatnot. Um, I definitely have to put it in proper perspective for everyone to understand why America's like that. Um, I'm not gonna lie. Before I would think that, America's just evil, they're just trying to make money. But then I'm like, how do you provide food for a whole country of people who are trying to live the American dream, right? Make money, work which means you have to have a convenient way of eating, a convenient way of living. Now, how do I match the food to match the way of life? Convenient food. Everything has to be convenient. Everything has to be fast, shipped, packaged, product. Because imagine what it looks like to go outside and pick fruit off of a tree. It's impossible. It's hard. It's difficult, right? Then on top of that, not everyone's going to buy it. Now, then it's going to go bad. It's going to go rancid.
Yeah.
So I believe the system is set up wherever you find great wealth in this time, you're going to find really unhealthy people, right? Because it's impossible to produce great wealth if you don't have technology now, because now we're moving in more of a technological sense where we may not have to leave our apartments or our homes. We can probably just get on, probably in the next 20 years, get online, get on our phones, do our work, go outside, pick our fruit, eat, and come back in and do work. That sounds like a utopia, a dystopia, right? It's a dystopia, utopia, right? Where you only work at home, so now you don't have to jump in the car, ride here, do that. Now you have ample amount of time to toil the field, to grow your own stuff, walk down the street to the market, have swap meets. Because I feel like technology, if we use it in the right way, we could create that. But then again, now that knocks out big stores, that knocks out Whole Foods, that knocks out Walmart, that knocks out Target and all that, because now they're competing against, at one time, being relied upon for their food and convenience. Now technology is moving these people to where they have more time on their hands. That 30, 40 minutes being stuck in traffic to and from, they're just clicking off the internet and going about their business.
Yeah.
Unless we don't let Netflix and other, TikTok and Instagram eat up our time throughout the day, our attention.
Yeah.
All right. So, but yeah, I think America is producing food for the amount of wealth it's trying to produce. Because you go to any other country like that too, there's places in China the same way, and they're producing extreme wealth as well. And the food wasn't so great. I'm like, I played over there for like 3 weeks. I couldn't play longer. I was gonna try to sign for the CBA team, like their version of the NBA. I couldn't eat because, I'm not trying to trash China or anything, but any country that's based on that convenient, fast paced, make money, hustle, it's gonna have its detriments, and our food is unfortunately the detriment.
Breathe probably either, right? With all the pollution there.
Oh man, I had a rough time, man. Listen, I love my third world countries. I love going to Jamaica. I love when I used to live in Egypt. Everything is right there, and someone just picked it and put it there, and I bought it and I ate it on the spot. All right, I love that. It's unfortunately, we live in the first world with a third world, what we would deem as a third world diet.
Oh my God, absolutely. You know what? I want to go back to what you said. I think it's really important. Like the way that the food system works here, it wouldn't be like that if we didn't demand it to be that way, right? In a way, like you didn't say that exactly, but it's like if I value my convenience above everything else, then I'm giving the right to have this kind of food available, and I'm actually like encouraging it. But if I, it's like if I always and only go and buy, food from the small local producers, I cut the need. It's like it's all supply demand, right? So we have all the power to change that, but we want convenience, and so you're right. Convenience means, again, taking all the bacteria out so that the food can stay on the shelf for as long as possible. Producing all these things that are not really food anyways, and then delivering it to you and like when you want it. So so I think convenience in a way, and also what you said, like to me, the more we develop and try to be all advanced, the more we lose what real living is about. Unfortunately, it's like an inverse relationship for me. Because I also spent a good share of my life in Brazil, and in Armenia, where I spent the summers in my grandma's garden, and like chickens and like fruits and everything, like you had to pick, and like getting scratched by the raspberry bushes, like it's work, and it's like it takes a lot more time to get to real food. but it's so worth it, and like that's part of what makes us also happy, which could take us into a whole other conversation on like mental
Yeah.
health. I think
Yeah.
like sitting in front of a computer working and being efficient doesn't make you happy. I'm sorry, like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But think about it. Think about it. Our as you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This it's supposed to be charging. 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the fact that I think it goes deeper than just 1 second. I think it I think it goes deeper than I think it's the psychology, of people, right? Once you get a taste of convenience, it's hard to go back. It's almost like you you eat fruit off of a tree. Oh, you're living like a caveman, right? Like I remember going back home to Jamaica. Right, I'm wearing my Jamaican shirt, by the way. I went back home to Jamaica.
I'll ask you a few questions about that, but
Yeah, went back home, uh, and my family, some of my cousins from down the street, they were like, Lance, why you in the tree all the time? Why you eating so many mangoes? You're gonna get worms. Me, I'm gonna get worms. Me, all you eat is Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I'm gonna get worms. Like you're asking for money to get food. Why would you like? I would tell. Why would you make money to buy food when you can just make food and you have all the access to it? How can you go hungry? There's not a food scarcity. There's a knowledge scarcity. You don't know how to make your own food.
it's such
Like,
a foreign concept to people, right? I have a I have my grandma who lives in Armenia. She's 93 now, and she refuses to come live in the US with us because she values her garden and like growing her own food so much. She's by herself living in like in the middle of the forest, and like the last time I spoke to her, I don't know, this was a couple of years ago, but she was like climbing the tree to get the fruits by herself, and then she got a little bit like stuck on the tree, she couldn't come down, so she jumped from a tree, and like this is like at like 85, and it's like when she does that, she ends up eating organic foods, she's doing her physical exercise and her mental health as well, so like she's taking care of all the different fronts, just like
all at once, right?
way better in health than all of us taken together,
It's
so
like when you live the normal life, you take care of multiple things at once.
yeah.
You don't have to exercise, download an app to calm down for your stress, and do this to do that. It's like you walk and you interact with nature. You're getting all of that in once, right? You're getting the vitamin D, you're getting the fruit, you're getting the exercise, you're getting everything all
And
at
you're
once.
getting adventure, which is also, I feel like we're on such a like deficit of adventure in our life. Like we don't get enough stimulation. Like obviously because we sit in front of our computer and we watch, like, which it's even worse. Like it's like this disconnect between how much we put into our brain and how much our body is doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
now we understand why they depict aliens the way they do with the small bodies and the big heads. Right?
that's a
They
good.
say that's what we are. They say that's what we are. They say that, right, our future selves are those aliens coming back because they have advanced so much technologically to the fact that they have to store so much in their brain and they're not moving their bodies. So their body's malnourished, but their head is large.
Oh God.
So yeah, I was having a conversation with someone one time, and then I saw it on YouTube as well. After I had the conversation, weird because they're listening in on our conversation, right? But yeah, it's yeah, that's like I wouldn't say that, I believe it, but I consider it. I see it. All right.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's to the point where common knowledge isn't common. And when you do provide common knowledge, you sound like a superhero.
Right.
It's almost like you figured out, I don't know, the key to the universe and how things click. It's like, no, all I just told you was to walk and climb a tree and eat some fruit. That's it. Yeah,
And it's really simple. I mean, when I tell people it's all about like going back to our ancestral ways of living, people at first they look at me like I'm crazy, right? It's like you want me to go back to the Cape, but it's not really that. It's like it's just
No,
hard.
I do want you to go back to the cave.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, we have a bunch of them in Armenia. Like I actually uh, discovered a cave myself when I was like 7 years old, and with all the like where they make the bread and when they make, it's like the wine, and it's really cool. But what I was gonna say is like we don't have to go back to the cave. I mean, we can, but it's like we have to understand that our body works in a certain way. It was created to work in a certain way, and when we understand how it's supposed to, like how we're supposed to get ample amounts of sunlight and enough oxygen. Like when I drop my daughter off at school at 8 a.m. and pick her up at 4:30 p.m. and she doesn't get any sunlight. She's like in a cubicle stuck, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing to my child? Like she needs to get sunlight, she needs to run around, she needs to be, in like fresh salt water, and instead I'm putting her in this. So anyway, like that's something I can't change yet. Maybe I will.
Okay.
But it's like how
It's almost like you got to find your way outside of the matrix, right? You got to work your way out of it. You got to win the game so you can have that freedom, right? And I know it's a game that most of us don't want to play, but it's a game and we have to play it. And whoever gets that freedom and find a way to continuously make money while not making money, where you can live out, it's almost like you gotta win your ancestral way of living, almost. Like once you win the game, then you can live free and be healthy and happy. But until then, it's kind of hard for you to win that game.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And even though you win the game, you got to continuously play it or have a streamline of money that's always being made, because you still got to pay taxes on that land. Right. So, right.
No, it's but how are you getting out of the system? How have you done it? Like, can you tell us a little bit about your company, KaptainPlanit, right? Actually,
Yeah.
I was reading. It's so funny. I was reading this book, and it was talking about what captain means in Jamaica. But I'd like you to tell us a little bit. Like, what's the reason behind starting the company, and maybe you can share a little bit about it.
Yeah. So my reason for starting the company, like I told you before, I suffer from sickle cell trait. That's like the major part of my life, right? That's like I reached my worst moments through dealing with sickle cell trait, being in the hospital, nearly having my kidneys compromised, bunch of health issues, having to get IVs before games, oxygen tanks during the games, having coaches not understand what I was going through, putting me on severe anxiety.
They didn't know what you were going through? Like they didn't?
No, and I didn't either. But they were running a bunch of tests, gave me a biopsy. They were like, Lance, we don't think anything's going on with you. Actually, we think that it's a figment of your imagination. We think that your brain is psyching your body out to cramp up. So therefore, we're going to put you on some psychotics and pain medication. So yeah, turned my life upside down, put me in a hole. I don't bring that side up all the time, but because I try not. It's not that I try to forget it. It's just that.
Oh, you don't want to focus on the negative, right? I
mean, yeah, right. But I have to explain the whole story, and I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. Like I'm happy I went through it because I can see the light. Right? If I couldn't go through it, I couldn't see the light. But I went through it, and now I can see the light. How they do things. Like they're not asking me before they give me these pills, hey, how's your diet? Your guts your serotonin makes up 95. Well, most of your serotonin is in your gut, like 95% of it. Well, how do we fix your diet to make your brain work better, possibly? Or how do we give you some sun for serotonin? Do you have good close connections here for some oxytocin? You're exercising, so you're definitely getting endorphins. You may be working out too much. You may have to taper that back, right? Right? There's a multitude of things. Dopamine, right? There's a 1,000 different things we can do besides, hey, take this medication, and you should feel better.
The medical, I mean, this medical school students, they don't have a class on nutrition. It's like optional. They don't have any classes on like psychology. They don't have any classes on natural medicine. It's like not even considered. I mean, so what do you expect, right?
Yeah. So that whole experience that I've endured, that whole ordeal, I was able to say, you know what? I know what's going on. I know what people are going to go through. Let me be an intermediary. Let me be that person in between going to the doctor and having to deal with some issues. Let me stop you. Let me give you something that the natives or the indigenous have done forever.
Yeah.
Right. Let me mimic that, because the doctors have looked at the indigenous and said, you know what? Let's do what they're doing, but let's not only do what they're doing. Let's make a monopoly on that stuff. Right. So I was like, okay, let me start my company. Let me give natural herbs, remedies. Not only that, preach my message. So when I give you something that's helping you, I'm also going to give you a message as to why you're doing this as opposed to doing the other thing, and what else you could be doing to avoid you from doing the other stuff, because you don't want to go through that perpetual cycle of taking your first medication and then next week take another one. And then the next week take a third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now you're taking 10 pills. You have a 10-pill regimen per day to keep you alive. All because you lived in a delusional state of not working out, and you thought not working out, but taking these pills are going to be good for you, or eating whatever you want, still eating like a 5, 10, 11, 12-year-old, right? Where even they get sick, but don't want to change my diet, don't want to, address things that I don't understand. Let me live in this comfort zone because my mom ate like this and my grandmother ate like this and they love me too. And every time I make the food, it smells like that time when they took me on the boat and gave, it's like, our food is attached to memories. Our taste is attached to memories, smell attached to memories. So they know how to get to us, right? It makes you feel good and it brings back a feel good moment. So whenever you're eating that Snickers, it takes you back to the time when you were a kid and your mom would give you this, and then, right? And it's like, it's not only, it's escapism. Not only smoking weed, not only drinking alcohol, not only, there's a bunch of different things, but that's not the only escapism. Escapism comes in eating things that don't necessarily cooperate with your body.
Yeah.
And how do we break this cycle? People don't even know that it's a cycle.
Yeah, they don't see it as a problem. Okay.
No.
Most people don't actually. Yeah, I mean, it's really, everything right needs to change from food to the way that we exercise, or not even exercise. I hear what you said about, like, it's not about doing your exercise on the computer screen with like some trainer like somewhere. I mean, it's so much more than that, right? Like we were born to move and to be outdoors, and so yeah. Again, that's why I created the concept of pleasurable wellness, because it's like, what makes you feel good? Like, what kind of movement is going to make you feel good? And it's definitely not like standing in front of your computer. It makes no sense.
It's amazing how they come up with, these new scientific studies that if you go outside and walk through a forest for 5 minutes, it drops depression by. Really? Oh my God. You got smart. Really? I know that. Like, they come up with these new things like, oh, well, being naked in nature is gonna, drop your cortisol levels and raise your immune system because you're naked. Yeah, we're supposed to be naked. You guys made it taboo to be naked. You guys fetishize ass, titty. You guys fetishize buttocks and breasts and private parts, right?
And commercialize them, and then
commercialize.
It becomes a market. You make money out of it.
To make money, right? So now when we don't do it, we seem like we're backwards. But when all actuality, that person walking around with their shoes off, I wouldn't walk around with my shoes off like in the city. Like, that's dangerous, right? Because there may be syringes and all types of stuff, right? But walking barefoot in grass in your own backyard, absolutely. Being naked in your own backyard, absolutely. Yeah, everyone's supposed to be a nudist, and I'm not preaching some sexual fantasy or whatnot, but you're supposed to be naked. You're not supposed to have on clothes. These clothes have chemicals in them. Yeah, I wear them because I don't want to be. I want to look decent and not be, be penalized for indecent exposure and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, it's like, But then again, when we talk like this, we sound cuckoo. We sound like tinfoil hat. We sound like you guys don't. You guys are.
Yeah.
You guys are normal.
I came out. I worked in health policy for 10 years. I worked for like really fancy institutions, and then when I started talking about pleasurable wellness and like going back to the basics, people thought I like completely lost it, right? Because I'm talking to like policymakers. And a lot of my friends are in that place. And it's funny because, some of them finally were like, wow, like this is so amazing what you're doing, and
Yeah.
but because eventually we come to the point where it's like, I'm sorry, I spent 10 years working on health policy, but I was only working on disease and perpetuating this terrible system that we're in, right? And so you're right. And when it comes to embracing health, you're right. It is kind of it is you do have to become a little cuckoo in a way, right? And it is really simple, in one of my first retreats, I remember one of the everyone loved it, and then one of the girls was like, oh well, I wish there was some more complex information on the diet, and what, like, maybe like ayurvedic in a diet and whatever. I'm like, look, if you want to make it complicated, you can make it complicated, but it really is simple. And people don't even want to accept it. It is that simple. It really is. It's just because you know what it is, because then you have all the responsibility to take care of
Yes.
yourself. And that's what people don't
Yes.
want. They want
Yes.
to blame everyone else except for themselves, right? But it's actually empowering. Like when you get over that fact that, like, it's not the doctor's fault, it's not the whatever your coach's fault, it's not your husband's fault, it's your fault, and you can, and it also means that you can completely transform it because it's all in your hands. I
Yeah.
think I think that's what I love your story for that. It's like it's very empowering, right? Like
Yeah.
you took your health into your own hands, and
Yeah.
then not only you were able to follow your dreams, but you are now like helping others. So
Yeah. Well, I'm big on understanding that, everything is my fault, regardless if I did it to myself or somebody did it to me. It's my fault for allowing it to happen and being in that situation and being fooled, right? Doctors, they fool you, teachers, coaches, they all fool you, right? But it's for you to learn and say, fool me once, right?
yeah,
Fool me twice. You can't, like President Bush said, you fool me once, you can't get fooled again. You can only fool me once, right?
nothing
But then
happens
again,
to me, everything happens for me, right? It's to
yeah,
learn. Yeah.
yeah, for me to learn, right? And I pick up and I take and go, right?
Yeah.
And listen, not every situation is going to be the best. You're not going to have the best example as parents. I didn't have the best example, and I'm not going to trash them because they didn't have the best example, right? Um, but then again, you know, like you say, it all comes back to self accountability. You got to own up for what you did. Apologize to yourself and move the hell on. Right? It is what it is, right?
And
So
also,
yeah,
I think like recently, like on my fourth, I think it was fourth, like I already lost count. My fourth healing experience, I was like, you know what? It really is about like a choice. You decide that you want to be in this vibrational state of being healthy, or you want to be in that vibrational state of being unhealthy, and you
yeah,
know, going with that. I mean, I know it sounds very kind of like, but it really is, because it's not just about the habits that you choose, like eating. We talked about
yeah,
eating. We talked about nature. We talked about movement.
yeah.
We talked about pleasure. But it's also really about like
The
that
environment.
the environment, but also I think like mindset, right? Like when you
Yeah,
put yourself in that mindset of like, I'm gonna be good, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes, but also like that mindset completely transformed it. Like you manifest good health when you really believe in it. So I think yeah, like empowering yourself and feeling like, yeah, I can do it. You can get out of that state wherever you're dealing with. There's a lot of help out there. You just need to take that first step, I think.
yeah, yeah. Like I posted this the other day on my Instagram. I post a lot of quick quotes so people can understand and put it in perspective, right? Um, we get in relationships sometimes where they drag us down and bring us to a low point. And it's it you have to leave it at some point where it no longer suits you, right? You're like, you know what, this environment's kind of bringing me down. Like this isn't a fun environment. It's not constructive. It's actually deconstructive. So let me move away from it. Let me move away from it. And this is for my better. It may hurt to leave. It feels bad. You love it. Just
Yeah.
like food, you may love it. The taste, it feels good. It brings back. But if it doesn't have any results that you're looking for, you gotta leave it, right? It's like if it's proven over and over and over and over and over, to not help you? Come on.
You got
Like,
something different.
yeah, it's like that's what do they call it? If you do the same thing over and over, they call it insanity. That's insanity. A relationship, food, that's all insanity. If I'm continuously getting negative, with food, I gotta leave it. I gotta stop it. I can't be coughing every day. I can't be sneezing every day. I want to feel good the majority of my days.
You
If
know,
it's
I've read this really cool study where that it shows, like people with multiple personality disorders, like that have different personalities, and they can shift from one personality to another. So it's really interesting. They've done this study where in you might have some kind of a autoimmune disorder in this personality.
ah,
When you shift into another one, you don't have that autoimmune disorder. So it's
uh,
all in our head. It's like,
uh,
and in a way it's in our head, but it's also reinforced by everything we do. So I
uh,
think the first step is like you get out of that mindset. You say, okay, I'm not in that disease mode anymore, and I don't want
uh,
to be part of that society that values disease so much. And I'm moving to this other mindset, another vibrational state, and maybe like get out of the whole system and create. Yeah, so it's
that
very,
that's epigenetics, right?
yeah,
Environment determines gene behavior. Just like environment determines gene behavior, environment determines behavior, period. Right? If that environment is not conducive to be prolific, like to produce, to bring forth good things, if it's always a negative state, you gotta leave it. You gotta change your mind. You gotta get away from it. Right? It just is what it is. It's not that you're being negative or bad or mad or angry. It has nothing to do with that. It's just not producing the results. And there's a reason why. There's an issue in the system, and you gotta move away from it. You're not quitting. You're not bailing. You just gotta leave it. Like it no longer suits you anymore. So no, absolutely, I get it, and I had to come to realization with my diet that, like I told you, that's how I created my company, because I named myself KaptainPlanit because I want to plant seeds of knowledge every single day. You may not get it, you may not understand it, you may not like it, but I want you to consider everything I say. And maybe that seed's going to grow. Maybe 5 years down the line, Lance, what you posted the other day made me think. I'm not telling you what to do.
yeah.
I'm questioning you. Do you know what you're doing? Right?
It's so funny because I mean the hardest people to transform are your family members, right? And
Oh
like
my God.
for years, because I've had these issues like in my early or like teenage years even. I was like always yelling at my parents and like they would not listen to me. They thought I was the most annoying person in the world. And then like 20 years later, my mom, after having some serious health issues, which luckily didn't translate into something more serious, now she sends me articles. I'm like, Mom, I've been telling you this like 20 years ago, and like now you're telling me. But anyways, it's okay. Like I think, like you said, as long as the seeds somehow spring into something beautiful, whenever they do, whenever you're ready, whenever it's worth it. So I'm so happy we're here and spreading the seeds of knowledge and inspiration and we're almost at the hour. Like, is there anything that you want to kind of close with, some inspirational encouragement, or what, like someone who is really finding themselves in a state that they don't want to be in and like they are ready, like
Yeah.
what do you have to
Yeah.
tell?
So for someone who's finding themselves like in the health world and just life in general, it's be honest with yourself, right? Be honest that you don't know it all. Be honest that you're not at the point where you think you should be. Be honest with knowing that you don't have the knowledge, or you're not as mature in that state of being, right? Because just being honest will allow for you to grow, right? Because when you think that you know it, or you are more skilled than you think you are, you typically lead a life of delusion, right? You're not, if you're not there, you're just not there, and it's okay, if you're striving to do that, but don't portray yourself as if you know that, right? You can't lie to yourself, you can't lie to God, and especially when you diet, it's gonna show eventually. If you don't know, you just don't know, and you have to sit in that. Be a student, understand this is not my game. I should not be playing this game. And but I'm a student and I'm going to learn the games until I can be a good player at it. And I think we live in the era of, I saw this YouTube, I follow this person on TikTok, so I have the knowledge, but you lack the nuances that got to that knowledge. So when you get questioned, oh my God, I don't know because of this and that and the third. You lack the nuances. I know you probably heard a piece of information, but that core knowledge, that core is not there. So I would say admit that you don't know. Admit that you're not as evolved as you think you are, with health. Just admit it. It's okay. Don't mislead people and make them think that you're something that you're not.
Right. I mean,
or you're mature in that, feel that you're not. But that's the only inspiration, because once you admit, now you can grow. But if you never admit to it, there's no growth. Like you just don't know. You're not there. All right. So
yeah, that's the worst. I mean, it's in everything, right? It's not just with health, but when you think you know everything, then like you kind of stop evolving in
yeah.
general, right? And
Yeah.
relationships and in life in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, and a lot of times it's not even people's fault. Like, I mean, I think we should. The other project that I'm thinking, I've been pursuing, and actually did end up doing a wellness curriculum for schools, because like we don't learn anything in schools. Like, well, why are we learning about math and chemistry and this and that, and we don't learn anything about how our body works, how to, how relationships work, how to go about life. That's
Yeah.
the basic skills are not given to us. So it's not a surprise that we grow up completely disconnected from our bodies, from each other, and from what it means to be healthy. But we're here to help. And I think, like when you make that first step and you say, okay, I don't know and I want to learn. I think that, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear. There's a lot of amazing teachers out there and a lot of amazing stories like yours. And I'm really, really, really happy and really thankful that you were here with us tonight and you were able to share that story. And hopefully you will, I'm sure, I'm not hopeful, I know you will inspire a lot of people to take that first step. And yeah, and then if you guys want to learn more about Lance's products, can you tell us where is it, like website or Instagram? What are the best places to find it's moss, right? It's or you have other herbs as well that you sell on your Instagram?
Yeah, so we're on two spots. We're in KaptainPlanit Instagram, Easy Herbal Instagram. We have one of the newest, hottest superfoods right now, sea moss. We have sarsaparilla, blue vervain, sorrel. We're going to be introducing a lot more soon on our Easy Herbal Purple Lemonade. For the Easy Herbal side, we have everything convenient, because you still got to satisfy those convenient people who just want it, shake it, go, right? We have that, right? Because I understand the game and I understand how people think. That's why I don't always blame doctors, because I'm like, these people are asking for pills. These doctors are not just prescribing it. People are asking for it. So I try to give it as convenient as possible. But then again, I have the raw base stuff also if you want that. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, KaptainPlanit. That's Captain with a K, Plant It, and Easy Herbal. Not easy, the whole word. It's E letter Z herbal.com. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, and we got to do this again.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's like millions of topics that we didn't cover. And that's what I was going to close with and say that this is going to be happening every first Wednesday of every month. I'm going to be inviting cool people with lots of knowledge, inspiring stories, professionals too, people who have really tried to get out of the system and create something that really makes a difference in people's health and well-being, whether it's in movement, nutrition, sexuality, you name it. For me, health, it has really a much wider definition than what we make of it. So I'm going to be inviting really unique people that I think really the world needs to hear our stories. So thanks for being here. I really look forward to having you here again soon. And health, well-being, pleasure to you guys, whoever are watching us, and comment and let us know what you thought and what kind of other topics you'd like to hear in the future. So kisses. Have a good night. All right, take care.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
Bye-bye.